Phillips. The crown Patricia has, which is the same crown in the 1934 photo, was custom made probably in Europe about the time of Ethel's reign as the Queen of the Mystic Club. It definitely was not made in the 1800s, he said. The scepter, which is not the same one that's in the photo, was mass-produced in the 1940s and 1950s, Phillips said. I have seen several of them. He speculated that the scepter she carried in 1934 as the Queen of the Mystic Club was the same one her husband Edgar carried in 1933 as Rex. That was done quite a lot. So what became of the crown Ethel wore in 1892 when she was coronated by Emperor Felix? It seems likely that she never had one. There are no known photographs of the event or of Ethel as the Empress. The detailed story of her coronation, published in the Daily Register, made no mention of crowns on either Felix or his Empress. The article described how Felix approached Ethel and, quote, placed on her left shoulder the knot of imperial colors, purple and gold, crossed with pure white. The white was included to honor the Order of Myth's 25th anniversary. That was that night. After Felix's knights placed the same knots of colors on the left shoulders of the maidens, Ethel's colors were then, quote, pinned with the gleaming imperial bee in diamonds and opals. And that was it. No crown, just a bumblebee pin. Patricia Ezel said she's never seen such a pin among her great-grandmother's belongings. The story did mention a scepter. Ethel, the story said, had surely, quote, added hosts of new subjects to that social scepter she sways as easily as she did the mimic one, which brought new homage last night. The fate of that scepter is unknown.
Thank you, Steve. Last speaker tonight is actually me. I get my chance. Tonight's talk is entitled Tie a What Color Ribbon. In 1948, there was an author by the name of Robert Talent who wrote a book about Mardi Gras. Some of you may have a copy of it. It's a very good book, mostly pretty much about New Orleans Mardi Gras, but he does mention the Chaldeans. But if you look on page 119 of that book, you'll read this. The committee of reception, it concluded, who will be known by their rosettes, will escort the ladies to their seats and to and from the different parts of the house. So you ladies didn't get to walk around, just walk around. They actually had escorts. The gentlemen will not be permitted to occupy seats until the ladies are seated. So in other words, the ladies got the seats and the guys got to walk them around. What's interesting is this is a description of the 1859 Comus Ball. So in 1859, Comus was using rosettes. If you don't know what a rosette is, there's an example of it over here on the table. It's basically a big ribbon. You all got ribbons tonight. I haven't been able to find that the Chaldeans influenced this use of a ribbon, but based on everything I've read so far, pretty much everything Comus did, they got from the Chaldeans. So there's probably a chance that the Chaldeans actually started the purpose of using the ribbons, because you can actually see that the Chaldeans had a reception committee. After the Civil War, you can read where the OOM had, the Order of Myths had committees, in particular a reception committee. There was 3 committees listed and they were identified by 3 colors. Does anybody want to guess what those 3 colors are? Absolutely incorrect. They were white, red, and blue. To this day, they still use red, white, and blue. So if you look at the use of ribbon, the ribbon that you're wearing tonight has been used for Mardi Gras since at least 1859. There's some photographs over here if you want to look at some of these. Actually, it was interesting that today I opened a box that had looked like nothing in it until I got to the bottom, and at the bottom there were actually ribbons. And they're ribbons from the 1890s. There's actually a photograph. They're reception committee ribbons for a group called the Mystic Crew of Mirth, and also the Order of Imps. And I think Mr. Dean knows about those groups, don't you? It was interesting to see those. They're actually kind of a white color. They actually have a button to them, and they had some kind of way to pin them on. So it's kind of really, when I came wanted to talk about this particular part of Mardi Gras, it was interesting that I opened this box and see it. It was actually, I have to give credit, it was found at the Historic Mobile Preservation Society office over by Oakley. It was a box that had been donated to them, and the box just said Mardi Gras. So it was really kind of neat. There was other ribbons in there also. There's also photographs of the OOMs from their 100th anniversary book from the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, if you look at those. So the OOMs and the others have been using these ribbons for a very long time. If you look down the hallway there, you see one on the wall that the museum has. So you see these ribbons now, and you say, okay, so they probably look different than those, and they are. In the 1970s, actually late 1970s, Augusta Evans School and the Mobile Association for Retarded Citizens, MARC, started programs at both locations to teach those attendees how to print ribbons. And for a number of years, those, especially MARC, initially Augusta Evans did it, from what I understand, for a couple of years, but eventually MARC took over and actually printed most of all the ribbons that were being used for Carnival in the 1980s and 1990s, and even into this century. Machines that they used were made by a company called QuickPrint. They were started in 1926, and the company still exists today. They're in Jacksonville, Florida, and the machines were originally made to emboss leather goods. The guy who runs the company now, his grandfather started the company, and he told me that they were in Chicago, and there was a need, he saw a need to emboss leather goods, so he developed these machines. The machines that MARC had, sadly, in 2011, MARC actually did away with their program. And when they did, a company called MG World Importers, Inc., which is my company, bought the machines. And the first of the machines I was able to identify as being made in 1981. So they had machines there for a while. Some were manual, some were automated type machines. And so now we still print ribbons for Mardi Gras. And you say, well, how many ribbons can you print for Mardi Gras? How many ribbons do you need for Mardi Gras? We did 15,000 ribbons last year. Okay, and we did them from all kinds, from reception committee to the president's wife ribbon. Okay, everybody seems to get a ribbon, and everybody loves to have a ribbon. We've actually now started to do more rosettes, because now rosettes are coming back. There's a lot of look to the use of that, and now we're using new technologies. There are new foils available. If you look at the picture from the 1890s, you'll see that it was actually foil printed back then. And that is actually what we do now. We actually foil print, hot stamp these ribbons. Most of them are set up letters. They have to actually be put in a typeset, but we have actually kind of smoothed that process out. We actually use them as dies now because we have certain categories like captain and reception committee and that sort of thing that we use for every group. You would think in this day and time that you would see a large amount of purple, green, and gold ribbon. But if you look over there, you'll see that there's very little purple, green, and gold. So we actually use a lot more colors, and there's a lot more. So tonight, you're now identified as having a ribbon now that's collectible. It has a date on it. If you look at it, it's a date, and what you were a guest here this evening. And that's what these ribbons have been used for all along. They were used for security purposes. Coma said they would be known, the committee would be known by the rosettes. Okay, so the ladies coming in knew that was the person that's going to go sit before this tableau. But it's also used for identification purposes for the organization. And some of you may be in groups where you see some of your members wearing 5 and 6 and 7 ribbons, okay? They end up being, it's your badge of honor is what it becomes. So it's a badge of distinction. So when I started this, when I got into this business, I never believed that ribbons have been used as long as it has. And we continue to add more and more to them and to do them in different ways, although the technique that was used years ago is still being used today. Now, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Joyne, Ann Pond, or myself? Go ahead.
I'm Andy Dubois, and Edgar was my great uncle, and you generated probably several hundred thoughts in my mind during your presentation, only two of which I think I can remember with any degree of articulation in the moment. One is Edgar and Ethel are both buried side by side in Magnolia Cemetery in the southwest corner in the Hodgson, hard to say Hodgson, Waters plot. So Hodgson, Waters, and Dumont are all together.
Okay.
And just east of the McGowan Mausoleum, which is a beautiful granite mausoleum for that very wealthy family that was developed and designed by the Hutchison family. And I found the original plan for that on actually drawing, and I gave those when I collected all the Hutchison drawings and architectural renderings to the I call it the archive unit, which is South Alabama. That's got this long. Anyway, it's on the original linen, hand-drawn black ink on it. So it's a beautiful rendering of that mausoleum. But I just want to mention the geography. Ethel and Edgar Dumont buried side by side. Hodgson and then Waters are all like there in Magnolia Cemetery. The second thing is, have you ever heard of a map called the Badusky reference map of Mobile, Mississippi? Paul C. Badusky. He was a Portuguese teacher, really a Renaissance man of Catholic history. He taught cartography, geography, a number of other disciplines at Springfield College for many, many years. I believe, I'm not sure, but he was Portuguese in origin. In 1889, he drew a map called Badusky's Reference Map of Mobile, Mississippi. On the eastern shore of Point Clear, of the names Hodgson, and south of there, people which down Dumont. A. Dumont stood for Alfonso Napoleon Dumont, who was my great-grandfather. But then Hodgson, I'm not sure what it was, Telfair, I'm not sure if I looked at the initials, but Hodgson is over there also, and that's the house location of the site where the current owners of the house. Anyway, the original house that was there burned. And that original house is where Admiral Raffles said was died. And the hospital.
Y'all still eat oysters out there?
Pardon?
I said, y'all still eat oysters from out there?
Not in Ohio,
Fried stew is not good. Lots of good oysters used to be done in Chesapeake. Anyhow, on that map, you will find the names of the owners of the group of the Eastern Shore of Point Clear. But they're geographically not spaced properly. You have to take that into account. He had a certain degree of cartographic liberty he took with the map. But checked around with the archives and the historic people in Montgomery. And I called and told them I had an original copy, and they said, well, you have one on the floor, you know, and I had it reproduced as big hand photographers. And they've done an excellent job of reproducing it at scale in the partial color. They have it on, so that map could be reproduced as many times as you want. I just want to mention, both those names, Hodgson and Dillon, appear on the Eastern Shore in 1889.
Well, yeah, it's also interesting to me that the Dumont name actually migrated into the Waters family. Julian Ethel and Mr. Waters had a son, Julian Waters. Julian's son, and Julian died at a very young age, but he was married long enough and stayed alive long enough to have a son, who was also, was he a Julian too? Yeah, it was Julian III. And his middle name was Dumont. And that's Patricia Ezel's father. And I said, how did Dumont get into his name? And she said, well, Edgar was the male figure in his life. I mean, his father died at an early age. His maternal, one of the other grandfathers was already deceased. Edgar was the male, and he was very, very fond of Edgar, and so he named his child with the Dumont middle name, even though they had not married into the Dumont family, which I thought was fascinating.
And Patricia's middle name is Dumont as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
And Patricia's middle name is Dumont
Patricia's
as
middle
well.
name is Dumont.
So it's carried on to that next
Yes.
generation.
You mentioned all over the place in New Orleans. I stayed in Uncle Larry and Uncle's house. We used to call him Hannah. That's just what everybody called him because that's just what they did.
Sure.
You know. But she's no king. I guess what Uncle Larry, of course, was. And I have very few photographs of just some of the portico areas of that house. But you said they really let room up there. I went there when they all my notification that I had in Marvin that meeting. So I can tell you, it's very different.
It's very exclusive and very, very expensive. It's probably the most expensive houses in
And one other thing you did not mention, I believe, is that he was also president of the Autumn Society and Autumn Park Zoo, Autumn Park in New Orleans, just up the street, upstream on St. Charles Avenue from Autumn Park.
There were a few titles I left out, but it's getting to be
I was going to say, you could cover
a
that.
long list.
I just want to mention those. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks.
Any other questions? No comments, no questions? Okay. Don't forget, Ann's got her book. If you've got questions, even after we're through, come up. We'd be glad to answer any of them. If you do me a favor, we try to leave very little when we leave, so if you can help. Last meeting was great. Everybody pitched in. We got the chairs up. If you don't mind volunteering one time, and speaking of volunteering, please consider volunteering. Come talk to one of the board members about what you'd be interested in, or email me or Facebook me. And again, if you haven't signed the roster, it's very important that you sign the roster. Okay?
Eddie, can you give us an idea of a couple of the committees that you're talking about?
Yeah, I'll be glad. What we've discussed so far, and we haven't gotten down to it, we're basically looking to see who's going to volunteer and then come up with the committees. But basically, we're looking for a media committee, a group that would then work with the media about requests. When we first started this, we had one of the local stations wanted us to do a spot with them in the mornings, but we were just getting formed, and I told them then, and I still believe that it is, once we kind of get going, if they want to do a story on us, that's fine. But we're looking for somebody to kind of head that up, to kind of answer any of the media questions that we may receive. We're looking for someone to volunteer for the election committee, because this is a transitional board. We hope to have in spring, hope to have elections of officers at that time, so we'll need somebody to kind of head that up. We're looking for somebody to volunteer to use their expertise in the technical review committee, where we basically kind of oversee and assist people in doing some of their research. And this group we're also talking about doing a future symposium, and that group would be involved in that. We're also looking for somebody, of course, to have a volunteer committee. We can always use volunteers, not only with our group, but with others. I've mentioned before the Historic Mobile Preservation Society has a very minimal budget, but they have an enormous amount of stuff. If you're really interested, you should consider volunteering your time to go over and help them. They're actually trying to scan in and identify a lot of the stuff that they have, and that society was formed in the 30s, so they have boxes and volumes and all kinds of stuff there. You just can't even imagine what they have. And of course, we know the museum has a tremendous amount of stuff also. But the last one we mentioned would be a special events committee. And we are actually talking about possibly having, along with the symposium, kind of like a flea market. For years, the city had a group called the Mobile Doubloon Collectors Club. And eventually they kind of disbanded it because there wasn't any interest, but there's a kind of a renewed interest now in lapel pins and doubloons and stuff like that. We've kind of talked about maybe having something in the spring that people could come and participate and swap doubloons or swap pins or swap stories or, you know, that sort of thing. And so this committee would kind of be heading that up. So, and we've got a couple others we were kind of kicking around. So if you're interested, we encourage you to participate, because this group only grows because you come and you get involved. And as you get involved, it gets bigger and you get more people talking and we get more things available to you. So I encourage you to do that. And we use the Facebook as a means to get across to people. If you've got any input on that, if you're a regular user of that, if you'd like to see some other things posted on that, let me know. This is always an open group, so if you've got anything you want to say, please say it. So.
I wanted to mention the Blue Club. Sandy Walker, who was one of the main North American clubs, recently passed away. There will be a memorial service for her September 4th at the Gospel Baptist Church. I'm not sure what time that memorial service is going to be, but it is September 4th. And she was a main, if not the main, organizer of the.
Yeah, if anybody knows Sandy, Sandy was, Sam kind of followed behind Sandy, but yeah, Sandy was doing everything. And it's sad, I just recently learned that like yesterday, and I've known Sandy for a number of years, and I know Sandy later in life had already been struggling with some health issues, but that didn't stop her. And if she wasn't collecting the balloons, she was with Sam down with the Pete Fountain Group. I think Sam's still walking. Yeah. So the half fast. Yes. So as you see, and let me say this: when you do the research, you start to make, like Steve was talking, like Ann's talking, there's connections between all these people, okay? You'll be surprised at what you may find. You go like, okay, I didn't know that happened. I don't know if anybody saw the post on Facebook about Edmund Gaines, and that was shocking to me that Edmund's dad was Aristide Hamlin, and Hamlin is the father of the OOMs. He's one the OOMs gives credit to for starting the OOMs. Well, the day of the parade, February 25th, 1868, Edmund was born. So Aristide had, I suspect, and ladies tell me if I'm wrong, his wife probably said, it's either us or that stupid parade. I feel like he chose wisely but poorly, okay? There's no mention that he didn't make it to there, but it was interesting when I was doing my research. to find that date. I was kind of doing a genealogy of Aristide, and I found that his son was born the same day of his parade. And not only that, Edmund's stepdad later was actually Oliver Sims, who Craighead gives credit to being in the wagon with Joe Kane and the rest of them, Lost Cause minstrels. So Edmund was kind of like, in a sense, I told Steve this, he was kind of like a prince. He never really, I've never read where he ever participated in it, but his dad started the Double OMs, which is the predecessor of what we all have now. And not only that, but his stepfather, he was born on that day. His dad started it, and his stepfather was on that day also. So all the stars were in place for Edmund. So if you've got, what I want to say is, if you enjoy that, let me know. Wayne, you got a comment on that?
I'll comment on two, three things you just reminded me of. Think back to Anne, how excited she gets about research. And that's true. You get into Slade can tell you, including my daughter and my wife, you get to doing the research and you're looking for things and you find something else. And you go down that path. And I know Steve did the same thing. One of the most fascinating things I've read, both Anne, the first and second book of Anne. Read the second one on Kindle, but I ain't got the hardback yet. Wait for it to come. But anyway, the most fascinating thing I found in book number 1, never had heard it before. We've actually incorporated some of it in our manuscript for our book, was the reason. It was a Portland newspaper that had the article that gave the reason that these men started the rebellion was because there were not enough young girls in Mobile.
Well, and that's probably true. I'll say why. Because if you look at the admission tickets for the Calvelians, it would have the person's name, and it said admit 3 ladies.
Right. So the men
Okay, so at first there was no limit. It just said land ladies, but I guess it got to be too many of
Well,
them.
even the old line in New Orleans, may still be, but the last time I went to one of the old line balls, the men just went and watched the members dance with all the girls. I just watched the youths dance and they call out. So, but I thought that was interesting. You don't read that in Craighead, you don't read that in Delaney or Leon or any of these characters that wrote about it. But this Portland newspaper, for whatever reason, decided that was the reason that they started. There was not enough young ladies, so they were going to create this group. That's in her book. So get it for that and other things. It's interesting to read.
Well, and the Calvelians did have trouble. No, they had trouble with the ladies. Actually, I saw it said if you were of feeble health, they suggested you didn't attend. But it also, several times, they actually had taken out ads in the paper saying, very nicely done, but said, keep your children at home. So evidently there were people dragging their kids along with them to go to this tableau. You know, they probably watched the parade and said, okay, let's go to tableau, and they're trying to drag their kids in. So, like I said, and Wayne can tell you, all of them tell you, when you start to do the research, there is just amazing things that you learn about people and about history of not only here, but other places. I found that the guy who designed that Double OM logo, his name was Morton Tolman. Morton Tolman. He was one of the Tolmanville people. And Morton Tolman became a patent agent. His son, Harry, became a patent lawyer. And the guy who designed that's son represented the Wright brothers for all of all their stuff and trying to get, what am I trying to say, their patents. He represented that. So the guy who drew that, his son is the one representing that. So again, when you start to do this, you go down and you start to find all kinds of other things that you can only imagine. So, is there any other questions? Okay.
Real quick, I've got some tickets. This is totally has nothing to do with Mardi Gras. I got a few tickets to the Business Expo on August 27th. They're actually charging admission to get in this year. So if you'd like to go and don't want to pay, come see me. I'll give you a ticket.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.